Welcome, everyone. It's Sunday night at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Nick Wagner Sr., Full Potential Podcast. Tonight, I'm really excited because I'm not only interviewing an amazing guest, but I'm also interviewing an awesome friend. So, Sri Srinivasan, welcome to the show. I appreciate you making time, stepping away from football, as we just talked about, and your family to talk with us tonight.
Thank you, Nick. Appreciate it.
So Sri, every Sunday night, I interview someone to tell their career story to hopefully inspire others by all the amazing things that that individual has done. Because I am convinced that everyone's unique career journey helps others learn and grow. And when someone listens to someone else's career journey, they realize, wow, if so and so could do that, why couldn't I do that? And they might realize or discover something that they're interested in or that they have a passion for that they never even knew. So that's why we do this every Sunday night. And a lot of early career professionals that I know you love to mentor listen to this because a lot of them don't know what they want to do, even though they might be done with school and in their first job. So we're going to talk all about your career tonight, which spans multiple continents, multiple industries. It's going to be a lot of fun. So I always start, Sri, by asking the question. So you meet someone for the first time. Say it's not COVID, and you go to a barbecue, right?
Correct.
And you meet someone for the first time. How do you introduce yourself? Like, who is Sri Srinivasan?
All right. I know. I mean, with the COVID stuff, I'm sure we're not going to any conferences in any time soon, right? So when I first meet somebody and they ask me, I usually tell them that I'm a technologist uh, who likes to solve business problems, and I kind of discuss with them that I work with teams that kind of use technology and automation to solve unique problems.
And and obviously, depending on who you talk to, Sri, the answer differs about how like technical you get with those conversations, right? So
Correct.
we're not going to go super technical tonight, but we'll get into obviously what you do in your current job with technology and but I want to start way back, right? Because I always start at the beginning with everyone because I love to hear the journey.
Mhm.
And when you were little Shri, right? And little Shri grew up in India, not in the United States. When you were little Shri, what did you want to do when you grew up? What was the plan, right? Like what was your dream or your plan for your career?
Yeah, I don't think not many people actually even know this. A lot of my friends even don't know this. When I was maybe in sixth grade, I think I remember my teacher asking me. Actually, she was asking the entire school class, and she said, "Oh, what do people want to be?" And in those days, pretty much everybody in India wanted to be an engineer or a doctor. I mean, but I think I said I wanted to be a Indian Administrative Services Officer. For those who don't know, what that means is that IAS. I'll just shorten that. Right? It's one of the three arms of the Indian Civil Service, and along with the Indian Police Service and the Indian Forest Service. So the people there usually serve the government of India in various capacities, mostly like in individual states. You could be like a district magistrate or a collector. And I think the reason why I I actually said that was because maybe it was my uncle. My uncle was in the Lions Club, and I think we went to the little city I grew up in India. It's called Vijayawada in Andhra Pradesh. We got to meet the collector, and she had like an awesome mansion. So I figured, hey, you know what? I think that's something I would want to be a collector, a district collector, or a DM or a DC district collector. That's what it is. But again, I didn't get there because this is supposed to be one of the toughest, I would say, exams in India. Uh, it's you just can't get through that, and there's like an age limit, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that you have to kind of register by or take the exam. But again, that was in sixth grade. um, Pretty far away from what I do today, but that's what I wanted to be.
That's what you wanted to be. So in the Srinivasan household, was going to college expected of you, Sri, and it really not a
Mhm.
discussion, or how did that conversation go?
My dad was actually a businessman. So I did not want to follow in the footsteps of my dad. I mean, not because I didn't think it was cool. I just think that I didn't have the passion for business. I was not wired for it. But one thing was that my parents always encouraged myself and my brother and my sister to always pursue what we wanted to do. I don't think ever my dad said, "Hey, you want to come and manage my business." I don't think that was never the case. I, you know, they asked me to pursue, what we wanted to do, what's our passion, and I know at the time my passion was, from sixth grade it turned into like math and science, and but
So he was an
uh,
entrepreneur. He was an entrepreneur then. He owned his own
yes,
business.
he
Okay.
was, yeah, he was. I mean, so was my grandfather from my dad's side. They were both in the business. And I think I went there one day, I think, to the office. And then I said, that's it. It's not for me. I think I'm good. I want to kind of go down the path of maybe sciences, math and science. Math is something I liked a lot.
Now, did you work in school while you were younger?
No. Typically, most people, I think, growing up there, don't work. It's not like the United States where
Interesting.
you do work. But I mean, some people do, but I don't think I didn't work anywhere. I think the first time I actually worked was after I graduated from college in India.
I didn't realize that. That's a fun fact. So you decided the family business was not for you, and you decided to go to college for physics, is what you ended up
Correct.
going for. So you
Correct.
wanted to be a physicist, is what you're telling me.
Correct. I mean, I like math and physics, and I wanted to be a physicist. And I don't think that was looked upon as anything different. I mean, my dad always said, pursue your passions. I did see a lot of my neighbors, my friends, they all took the path, whether they wanted to be in the doctor or the engineering side of things. But I think I wanted to do physics, and that was what I wanted to, do for the rest of my life.
What was there like a moment you remember when you were in school that woke you up to the fact that you wanted to do physics? Like how did you come to that conclusion?
I think it goes back to the kind of teachers that you have. I think in seventh and eighth grade we had a very strong. I had a very strong physics teacher as well as chemistry and math. Um, and I think it was one of those things where I think they were probably the best teachers I've ever had.
Right.
And I think I always say this: teachers do a lot to influence what you do. Um, and I don't know about you, but I think for me, I think that was I would say, the spark of trying to pivot from my sixth grade dreams to where I wanted to be.
No, I think many students are influenced by amazing educators, and I know you have a passion for supporting our educators. I do, and I think many people could relate to your experience of like, wow, I'm just completely amazed by one educator who will help them guide them on a path with their career. So you went to school for physics.
Mhm.
You graduated with a physics degree.
Mhm.
What was the first job out of school, and was it with the physics? Was it with your physics degree? How did that work out?
Actually, not. So while I was doing physics, I also had a passion for writing, passion for journalism. Growing up, we had a lot of English language newspapers at my house, and I would read cover to cover. And even to this day, I read a physical newspaper. I get my news not through, I mean, obviously through the internet, like a lot many people get, but I still read a newspaper that's physically delivered to my house. So journalism was something uh, in our blood. Meaning, when I said that, because my mother's dad was a journalist. I mean, he was a resident editor for Indian Express in Chennai. So something about journalism really was, I would say, uh, enchanting, I would say. But I think in school, when I was in school, when I was doing my physics in college, I also did like a diploma in journalism on the side, and I really enjoyed it so much that I wanted to write. And I write a lot, even to this day, but not like a novel, but I still like to write. But that's something I decided to pursue. It was almost that why don't I just try this for a couple of years, Um, so I did. So for 2 years, I think around 91 to 93, I was actually employed at the newspaper and pretty much covering, kind of local stories, writing movie reviews, writing some articles. And it was pretty enjoyable. And I learned a lot. And it was almost that I knew what physics was, but journalism was something new to me. So it was, I would say, a little unnerving, to say the least. But um, but I think I did have a good group of friends who I still keep in touch with, and uh, you know, one thing led to another, and here I am. Writing stories. And actually making sure that the paper gets published and things like that. It was pretty exciting, and I really enjoyed that before I pivoted to physics again. When I came back to the U.S. So it was just like I said, a little break from the
It was
physics.
yeah. So you did that for 2 years. So what I'll ask this, and then we'll get to your journey leaving India and coming to the United States for school. What was the big like the biggest thing you learned being a journalist for 2 years? What was that one thing that you've taken through the rest of your career?
Um, One thing I've taken, I mean, I think it's always about, the truth, being truthful. I think that's something that, I don't know. I don't want to get into the politics of journalism these days, but I think, that's something about reporting the truth, getting the news um, uh, to the masses, I would
Hmm.
say. Something I believe strongly in. And like I said, I mean, I think this is something that, even to this day, I want to make sure that I get the story out, and then let people decide what it is.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that your passion for writing and your writing skills have helped you throughout your career. So I love that story. So you decided, even though you liked it, you decided I should probably follow, what I
Mhm.
went to school for, and you decided to get a master's degree in physics,
Yeah.
and you came to the United States to do that, specifically the
Yep.
University of Connecticut.
Mhm.
I want you to tell my audience because many of my guests did not travel, halfway around the world to go to grad school. What was that like to leave home, to leave, like where you grew up, like a job, to go
Mhm.
to a country that you weren't born there, right? You hadn't lived there. I don't know if you'd visited America before you came here for
Never,
school. Okay,
never.
so that's even more interesting. Why the University of Connecticut? Why America? Why leave India?
I think I was trying to look for a higher studies in India, like most I think Indians do. I think, and I think a couple of my friends and I decided to apply to various universities in United States. I did apply, kind of all over the place, and it was a pretty interesting journey. And I was working. I was also studying. Uh, Writing exams like the GRE, which is the for getting admitted to universities, and also TOEFL, which is like test of English as a foreign language. So these are the two exams that everybody writes before they can get admitted to the university. Um, One of my friends actually came to University of Connecticut before I did, and he was raving about how beautiful the university was, and he said I should come there. I did apply to other universities, but I think that's why I decided to kind of follow I would say, my friend to the University of Connecticut, Storrs, Connecticut, in 1993.
And what? So I want to ask the question: was your family excited for you? Was your family upset you were leaving? What was that? What was that conversation like when you told your family, "Hey, I'm going to school in the United States"?
I don't think they were excited or, I would say sad. I mean, I think they knew that it's something that I wanted to do. And I think they did see the process, right? I was, applying to the university, so they knew that time was coming. Right? So I don't think they were upset. I don't think they were actually worried for me because one of the things is that I think for 5 years, I think I studied in Chennai, and I stayed with my grandparents. So that was the only time I was away from my parents. So I think, but that was with family, right? I mean, but now I'm coming all the way to the United States. The only thing my parents were, I would say, I don't think they were excited, but they also knew that my friends were here. I also had my cousins had already moved here, a couple of them, I think. And then since my friend was here and he was a good friend of mine, I think my parents said, okay, you know what, it may not be all that bad, sending our son across the pond, but uh, uh, I think it was, I think back of their mind, I think they were probably nervous, but
Yeah, I'm sure they were. And was your plan, Tree, when you were done with school, to stay in the United States or to go back to India? Did you have like that figured out when? Because you ended up staying, but was that the plan the whole time?
Uh, well, I don't know. I took it like I always take it like one day at a time. So I didn't have anything planned. This is something my kids hear me all the time. One day at a time, one day at a time. So I don't think I had any idea. I would be here. I think I've been here longer than I've been in India. I think. It kind of gives away my age, but I think we'll keep it at
Interesting.
that.
Interesting. All right. So you did your master's degree in 2 years in physics,
Mhm.
and then you got a job with physics, right? Like that was at that point you decided you're going to use your physics degree.
Well, I mean, when I came to United States in 1993, I actually came for a PhD in 1993, August of 1993. So I had my master's in India, but I think I came here for my PhD originally.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
I
and
think.
and, and so what was the plan after you were done with your PhD?
Well, I don't know. I think get a job with NASA or get a job, in Sandia National Labs or one of those places. I think that was actually my intent. But life has a way, right? And things change. But it was interesting when I first came, to UConn. That was my plan. You know.
Yeah, that interesting. So you mentioned when we were chatting before the call that you had a very interesting story when you arrived in the United States. Do you want to
Yeah.
share that?
Yeah, sure. I think I landed in India. I actually remember the date, August 24th, 1993. And my friend, the friend I mentioned before, he actually came from, UConn with a couple of his other buddies to, pick me up from the Boston, from Logan Airport in Boston. Um, and, here I am thinking I'm pretty much, it's a long journey. I get down. Uh, these guys are here. They pick me up, and I thought we're going back to Yukon, but they were like, "Hey, we've never been to Boston, so why don't we just go around Boston?" And I said, "Guys, this is my first day in the U.S. and I'm still tired, and I think I got the entire tour of Boston. I didn't get the duckboard tour of Boston, but I think I pretty much got the entire tour. And I think I think they took me to the IMAX theater. I think I visited three universities. I think that day. I think I was in Northeastern, MIT, and Harvard. Um, and I think they took me to all these places because they wanted to see. I think they kind of just used me as a, and here I am, and it's almost like 3 in the morning or 2 in the morning when we actually head back up to Yukon. And guess what? We missed the exit because they were the first time they were driving. So we missed the exit. So by the time we got to Yukon stores, it was 4 a.m. I think.
You must have been exhausted.
I was exhausted, but I think I was pretty happy that I got a good tour of Boston, and that's why I love Boston. And it's my favorite city.
That is so funny. Yeah, I can't imagine after because the flight from India to the United States is, for those that don't know, is very long journeys, and not everyone sleeps very well on planes. So that must have been interesting. So what happened after you ended up completing your degree at UConn? Like you ended up getting a job in information technology, not in physics. So how did that
Mhm.
happen? What happened
Uh,
there?
Yeah, interesting. While I was at UConn, one thing that I really enjoyed. and my roommate in college actually had a computer. So, and I really was fascinated by code. I mean, something I like to do. I mean, again, obviously, I'm dating myself in 96. 95, 96, Visual Basic. And I think most people probably won't remember that. But Visual Basic was, Microsoft's, coding language. And I really took a lot of interest in that. Um, and you know, um, that's something I kind of worked really hard at because I like to learn. I like to learn something new every time. Even now, I'm always trying to learn uh, something new, whether it's cloud based or artificial intelligence or no matter what it is. It's something that piques my interest. So coding was something I really enjoyed, and and I said, hey, you know what? Maybe I should try out for a job, and let's see what happens. Interestingly, and I think the job market was phenomenal at the time. For those who don't know, we were coming up very closely to Y2K, right? The year 2000 problem, or you could call it the Y2K, the Millennium Bug, or Y2K bug, the glitch. There's so many things that people name it, and the job market was pretty good. And I think as a coder, I mean, it was pretty easy to get a job. And I think it is not that I lost my interest in physics. I don't think so. I just think that coding is something I liked, uh, most. I taught myself to code, and I did take some coding lessons, not online, because I don't think we had, we couldn't just go type google.com and go to udemy.com or pluralsight or any of these coding sites these days. It was all these big books that I learned my coding through that.
It is interesting, Sri, how differently we learn now versus 20 years ago. It really kind of changes how you think about the education. So, and I love how you brought up Y2K because a lot of my guests, if they're early career folks, obviously didn't experience this, right? They were very little when this happened. So it was, to your point, the job market was pretty hot because there was such a huge need to check every single system to make sure it could handle, going from 1999 to the year 2000, right? So
Hmm.
it's just such an interesting. You think back on that and you're like, wow, that was a problem, really? Like, how did we miss that?
Well, it was interesting because I think again, everybody expected the world to come to a stop. Will our traffic lights work? Uh, you know, now how will all these systems work? I think I think driving back after I think we were at a New Year's party, I think, and then we're driving back. The lights were on, everything seemed fine. Uh, nothing, nothing fell off. I would say. I think I heard like somewhere along the way that maybe some lottery slot machine stopped working. I think that was the only. I mean, if that was the biggest issue for Y2K, I think we're good. We're in a good place. I think.
No, but you are right. There were a lot of people that were really worried about that. So it was an interesting time, and so that was really your foray into technology, right? There was this
Correct.
this Y2K job, and
Hmm.
at what point did you realize that you weren't going to pursue like a career in physics? Like how much after you graduated college?
Uh, I think pretty soon. I like I said, I really enjoyed the coding aspect of things. Um, and I had some during my first job, I had a couple of my colleagues. I could call them. It's unofficially mentors or people who really cared about you. Uh, I think that was when I kind of realized that I was thrown into some new challenges, and with new challenges comes in it's exciting to kind of learn more about it, try to solve it. Um, so I think right away, within maybe 6 months, a year, I think I was. I think it's not that it's still there's still a little bit back of my mind that I should have completed my PhD because all I had to do was like I graduated with a master's at UConn, and then and it was a very tough decision because I went and told my advisor at the time, um, you know, I really would like to go to. It was a very not just with my advisor, with the head of the department. It was actually a very tough conversation. Um, that that I said, listen, I think I want to go in another direction, and and uh, and they didn't mind. They said, hey, you know what? It's what you like to do. I think that's something that's very important. I think when you have people who understand what you want to do, and kind of let you you know chart your own path forward.
Well, I think you bring up an important point because I think a lot of people, Sri, unfortunately, continue doing things they might not necessarily like doing or want to do because they believe that's what they should do because they don't want to let someone down. But you had the foresight to have the conversation and let them know like, hey, I really want to go in this different direction. And I think just having like the boldness to do that is why you're where you are today. So I think that's a great lesson for everyone, no matter
Thank
where you
you.
are in your career. So you've had a long, you've had a long career now in the technology industry, right? Since
Mhm.
really, it's been about a little over 20 years you've been in the tech industry.
Mhm.
But you mentioned something just recently that I wanted to hit on. You mentioned the word mentor,
Mhm.
and how important those early mentors were to you. Because I know that
Mhm.
that's you mentor countless people, right? Was that your first real experience with mentorship in a like a job setting?
Yeah, I'd give you maybe I would say maybe three examples. Okay, the first one was definitely my first job. Uh, you know, when I was a consultant, and and I don't know if I can mention names, but we'll just say Don. For the purposes, um, and his name was Don, but you know, and he was very, very, I would say, focused on making sure that I had a good experience. And he was a well-respected, a coder in the industry, and he knew that I was coming in new to this industry, and he was someone who really egged me on. And it doesn't mean that he was, again, he was a on-work mentor. It's not that
Right.
you would meet one-on-one, but I think it's very important to talk about him, right? I think he really channeled my um, I would say, my curiosity and interest. And he always said, listen, I mean, I know you're working on this coding language, but I think you should learn other things too. And I think that, I'll tell you what, that really got me to my next job. Once the consultant gig was up, and there was a little, I would say almost like a disappointment or failure between that and the next job. But I think that really gave me the confidence. I think the path he asked me to take, learning was something that he mentioned, and I remember right after every day, and I think it's funny, right? I mean, when I say these things, when we say there's no internet at the time, um, I would drive back almost 35 to 45 minutes back to Farmington, Connecticut, to take almost like daily classes, so that I could improve my knowledge in other coding languages and things like that. So that's so that I'm actually prepared for that, right? And I think that got to my next job. But like I said, before that, there was a little, I would say, a failure in terms of once the consultant gig was up, and I was through a consultant firm, and it's very interesting. And he called me to the office and he said, "Hey, you know what? I think." I'm going to give you 2 weeks. If we can't find anything, we may have to let you go. And that was like a shock for me right off the bat. I said, "What?" I mean, and that was, and it was very, very. I didn't know what to do, and I said, "Wow." I mean, now I have to go find another job. And I think I don't know if you know this thing. If you had a job, and we were on something known as practical training and H1, and I'm sure you know about this. You had to find a job within a specific time frame before that. But luckily, a good friend of mine had a startup, and I joined his company, and that led me to my next job in the Department of Transportation. And that was an awesome job because I had another person, I would say a manager and also a mentor, um, who who basically challenged me to do something new. And he pretty much gave me the full control. And this is, before all the agile and things like that. And his thing was, hey, listen to your business partners. And here you go. Here are the keys to the kingdom. And I said, okay, who's our database guy? He goes, you. I said, okay, who's going to develop this website? And he said, you. And so I think I pretty much had to learn everything right from the scratch. And I think that he gave me an opportunity that I will never forget, because that led to my next passion, which is, my information security, which is always, it still continues to be my passion. But I think one thing leads to another, right? I think along the way, I've been lucky to have people who always look out for you. And that's why I try to invest a lot of time in the mentoring of individuals.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to ask that question, because I think you inspire so many people, especially early career people, in your role at Cigna, where we've worked together and know each other. And I think that, you mentioned Don, right? This individual that mentored you when you were way back at the beginning of your career. People remember those individuals, right? I mean, you remember Don and the impact he had on your career. And I love how you share that story, because I think there's a lot of people that will remember Sri like you remember Don, which I think is something that you should be proud of.
Thank
So,
you.
I want to talk about your time at Cigna. So you work at Cigna with me. I've had other guests from Cigna on. I work with a bunch of amazing people. So I've had a few of my colleagues on the show. But you've had a real big focus, Sri, over the years on cybersecurity, and now like big data, and really like the intersection of the two of those. Um, what I want to ask you is, you've consistently reinvented yourself, right? Like, you didn't go to school for cybersecurity. You didn't go to school for big data, right? Like, all these things really weren't even that. They weren't even really like that. Probably I don't want to say irrelevant, but they weren't even that big of a field at that time
Mhm.
compared to now, obviously. How do you keep reinventing yourself and learning, these new skills and these new technologies throughout your career? What is your key to that?
I think my thing has always been always start learning something new, right? I think you never know what that's going to take you to, but I think you're basically setting yourself up for opportunities for yourself, right? I think, and I'll give you an example, right? I mean, how I landed, and like I said, and not to go too much into the deeper, like you said, how I landed the job at Cigna, but in my previous role prior to coming to Cigna, I was, like I said, I was a coder, but I learned databases. But along the way, I really liked the information security, in that, and that led to my next job. You know, I think I wouldn't have been able to, land a job if I didn't, kind of pursue my passion for learning and reinventing myself, like you said, because that's something that we need to do each and every day. Learn something new every day, um, because again, it may lead to a job, it may not lead to a job, but that does not matter. It's as you if you're learning something new every day, you're keeping yourself, relevant.
Yeah, and the interesting thing, Sri, is you've been in technology now for over 20 years, but you've had multiple jobs. So you never left the technology industry. You've just done different things.
Mhm.
So your role, to share a little bit about your role today, and what are you doing with data and information and security, kind of all tied into one.
Well, I'll try to be as I know a lot of people are listening, but I'll try to be um,
High level, yeah, high level.
high
What
level.
what do you, what
Yeah.
do you do?
So I think I was in information security group for quite a few number of years, and then I moved to our information management. Along the way, I got a degree in medical informatics, and like we can talk about it later. But I think when I came to information management, which is now known as data analytics, one of the things is that we're always trying to, I said, using data to draw insights, and I still support our information security groups. So how do we use data to provide the right insights to the right people at the right time to make good decisions, right? Is that vague enough? Not to go
So
too
I
much
guess
into.
my question for you, Sheree, is about data, right? Because I think a lot of people have hear all these fun facts about how there's more data now than we've ever had before in like the
Yeah.
history of the world. And you just we don't. There's so much data we don't even know what to do with it.
Hmm.
Is kind of where we're going. How do you? I think one question a lot of people have is how do you actually make sense of it, right? Like, is there um, when there is so much data, like, do we actually have the technology to sort through all of this data to actually make sense of it? Like, do we have is the technology exist? I think that's something that people I think often wonder.
I think we do. I mean, there's a lot of personalization that happens today. I mean, so I think we do have enough data, but do we have the right data in place? That's more important. I think it boils down to that, right? And I think we can make sense of that, right? We're getting there. We'll get there, but I think it's going to be a journey. Let me put it this way: it's going to be a journey because it's almost like running a marathon. Uh,
And I asked that question, Sri, not to what we do
sure.
with healthcare at Cigna.
Yeah.
I just mean in general, right? Because I think there's a lot of industries that realize like they have all this data now. What do we actually do with it, right?
Hmm.
I think it's just it's an interesting topic because you hear a
Hmm.
lot of people that are always asking like, well, why is so and so need my data? Like, why do these people need my data? Like, where does all that go, right? So that's why I bring that up because I think it's just something that a lot of people have interest in.
Yeah, no, and I think you know what I mean. That's one of the reasons why I did mention that, right? I mean, I went and this is again goes back to another mentor who kind of kind of influenced me at Cigna. I'm sure I can mention his name, Dr. Jeffrey Kong, and I'm sure he was a chief medical officer for Cigna, and uh, he was someone that I really looked up to, and someone who has served in, I think he served in the White House in the Clinton administration. He was the chief medical officer for CMS, I think, and it was a very random, I would say, meeting with him that that a random lunch, I would say, that kind of established a relationship with him as a mentor, and he was truly, I would say, truly my first mentor. And one of the things that he said, and you went back to data, right? And the reason why I'm bringing this thing up is um, he was someone who said, "Hey, you're in technology. There's a lot of things we could do. I think maybe you should go and do something to understand on the provider side of things. And that's why I kind of and went and after about 15 years went back to school and did my master's in medical informatics, and it is from Northwestern, and um, it was very important because I think when you talk about data, right? I mean, healthcare is so vast, and I think that is one of the reasons I really wanted to understand um, not just the health service side of things, but also the provider side of things. And I had a lot of interesting, I would say, classmates. I mean, doctors, nurses, pharmacists, and um, and it was very good. It opened my eyes to the healthcare system in the United States. Learned a lot about how the hospitals operate, and it really gave me a good picture. And again, the fact that going back to data, the data was not being shared. It's not consistent. I think that was one of the reasons why I kind of pursued my path from information security into data. That was the key trigger for me to pivot um, uh, to the information management data analytics side. But I think it was good. I mean, do I do anything with that degree now? No, but I think I really learned a lot. It's something, another thing that I like to learn. And that's one of my advice always used to be to my mentors, to mentees is, try to learn as much as possible. I mean, keep an open mind. Um, and the more you learn, the more opportunities you're going to see out there.
No, and you're obviously a lifelong learner, and I love how you shared that story because I think it is absolutely relevant to the entire conversation we're having. I want to hit on one point with the mentors. So you mentioned you have a lot of mentees and you mentor a lot of individuals.
Mhm.
Any advice for people on how to find a mentor? Because I think a very common thing that people ask Sri is, I know I need a mentor. I don't know how to find one. So any suggestions for people that are looking for a mentor?
Yeah, I think a lot of the companies do have like formal mentoring programs. I think I know, like you mentioned, the early career development program, and I think there are a couple of other programs even within our own company that And I'm sure that it is the same thing with every company. I would say, you have to take the time, um, if you really want to be either mentored or be a mentor or be a mentee, right? Um, they don't just happen overnight. I mean, you have to take that. I mean, even to this day, I'm part of a couple of not early career, but also a couple of mentorship programs within the company that really helps me connect. One of the things I would always say is like the first thing is that you have to go in with the expectation that what is in it for me, right? That's very important. I think you have to make a conscious decision to actually take that first step. Um, and I think that really opens, I would say, opens the not only your network, but also helps you uh, get a good balance in where you want to go.
Yeah, no, I think that's well said, and I always try to stress that with anyone I talk to about their career, the importance of mentoring. And I mean, I have multiple mentors myself, depending on what it is I need to get advice on. So I love that. So Shri, I thank you again for making time and going through your journey and sharing your epic journey from the United States, from India to the United States for school, and your path as a journalist. And I would say, maybe wanted to be a physics professional and then ended up in technology. I always close with the same question, Shrey. So, obviously, I had you on because I think you've had a lot of great experiences that you shared to hopefully help people kind of understand what could be for them. But what is the one thing that you think has helped you reach your full potential with your career? What's that one thing that's helped you be so successful throughout this journey?
Yeah, I would say the one thing for me always has been, um, how can I make this place better, right? So any job I try to take, right? My first thing is to always, and this is the same advice, and I would say that this would be my, one advice. I said, do you make this place better than when you first started? And I think that should be the constant, thing that you should be achieving for. I mean, you can always aim for, you know, I want to be here, I want to be there, but you know what? You have to start somewhere. And did you make this place better from when it started? And I think that's the advice I give to. You can ask any mentee, that I've mentored, and that's the first thing I always tell them. Uh, and I think that's what has gotten me to actually, uh, you know, to be where I am. But again, like I'm saying, I'm always learning, and
Right.
that's one thing you can never, learn as much as you can. And are you in for making this place better? Those are the two things. And also, there's other things too, like getting the right team and relationships. Relationships are very important, um, in our industry, not just in our industry in general. And I think a lot of the things that I try to achieve is built on strong relationships I have with individuals. And it doesn't matter what their title is. It's having the right relationship, and you can achieve your potential by aiming, to make the place better. I remember it goes back to um, a teacher back in high school, and she would always tell us it's always rain for the stars, the El Dorado, and that's something that I've kept in mind all the time. Again, you don't know what the journey is going to be, but you have to make uh, the investment and the time in getting there. Um, you know,
Well, Shri, that was well said. So thank you. I love the. Are you making this place and better when you leave? I love that. So what we're going to do, Shri, is this is everyone who's listening now. We'll make sure to get your LinkedIn profile in the show description, which we're going to post on both YouTube, and we're also going to put it on all major podcast platforms. So we'll make sure we put your LinkedIn URL in there, Shri, if anyone wants to get in touch with you. Maybe they're looking for a mentor, and maybe they need to give you a call. So I appreciate you making time. Great advice, great
thank you.
perspective, and thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much, Nick, and I really appreciate the time. We've known each other for a long time, and thanks for helping me sharing my journey.
It was an honor to have you. So stay safe and be well. Thank you, Sri.
Thank you, sir. Have a good
Talk to you
night.
soon.